subtle. So then the next question will be, well, how to stop that sense gratification? If we want to stop envy, we have to stop sense gratification. And we may be engaged in sense gratification one way or other, either we may know it or not. So then what to do about that sense gratification? How can it be stopped? So Bhagavatam, it gives a further verse to give you some idea how to stop your sense gratification. What could help in that direction. So we'll try that next. And this is a verse which comes from the 11th canto. We'll find it in the 10th chapter, and it's verse number 20. And it is Kono atta sukhayati enam kamuva mitrantike agatam niyamanasya vajyaseva natustida. And this means death is not at all pleasing, and since everyone is exactly like a condemned man being led to the place of execution, what possible happiness can people derive from material objects or the gratification they provide? So, and in the purport, this is a purport given by Rinananda Das Goswami, and he explains that if one sits in one's living room and one knows that there's a deadly snake also present in that living room, then how can one sit peacefully and enjoy something like watching a movie, like that, eating a pizza, if one is aware that in the room there is a deadly snake, and at any moment this snake may attack you, or may attack you, and you will die from that snake bite. So how can you be peaceful? So death is actually compared to that snake. So if one is aware that one is in the presence of this deadly snake, then how can one be peaceful? Peaceful in the sense that one simply is absorbed in sense gratification. So death is also given as a negative meditation. And when one becomes aware of death, then one becomes less inclined and less mad after sense gratification. So that's the point. So I thought we could take, because this is theoretical, so I thought we can take a practical example of how this happened, of how a person became very sober by thinking of death. Who practiced this, and who showed how to give up sense gratification by remembering death? Who did this practically? So I will come to the point. And actually, we'll come back to Duryodhana, because when we read the Mahabharata, and when we find after Duryodhana he was defeated by Bhima. As we know, Bhima, he crushed Duryodhana's thighs. So he fell down on the ground, and he was bleeding to death. And in that condition, he was just simply waiting in order to die. He knew that there was no chance. He was going to die. It's just a matter of time. So he knew he was practically already dead. And in that condition, it's explained that Ashwatthama, who was the last, one of the few, I believe it was Ashwatthama, the last remaining soldiers, fighters on the Kuru side, that was Ashwatthama and Kritavarma. I don't know if there's more, but I can remember these. I can remember these ones. Then Ashwatthama, he got the idea that he would please Duryodhana, because Duryodhana had lost everything. He was dying, so he thought that, let me please Duryodhana. So he went into the camp of the Pandavas in the night with Kritavarma. There must be one, I don't know, maybe it was Kripacharya. Was correct? So he even stationed Kripacharya and Kritavarma to stand outside the camp while he went in, because he got the benediction from Lord Shiva that he got a particular sword or knife that he would go in and he would start killing the soldiers, the surviving soldiers on the Pandava side while they were sleeping. And he came into the tent of the sons of Draupadi, the 5 sons of the Pandavas, and he beheaded them. He beheaded the sons of Draupadi, and he took these, while everybody was trying to flee from the camp, because Ashwatthama was going around and murdering. They were escaping, and Kripacharya and Kritarama, they were standing outside the gate and shooting those with arrows who happened to escape. So everybody was finished off. And Ashwatthama, he took the heads of Draupadi, sons, to Duryodhana, and he was thinking that Duryodhana would be very happy, because now Ashwatthama, he had finished off the lineage of the Pandavas. There was nobody left surviving on the Pandava side. So he was thinking that Ashwatthama, he'd be joyful, he'd be very happy with this. But when Ashwatthama, he comes before Duryodhana and presents him with the heads of Draupadi's sons, then he becomes disgusted. And he says, Jugupsita, you've done a heinous act. And as we know, Duryodhana, he would do anything to kill the Pandavas. Previously, he would give them poison. And he would try to burn them alive. So totally envious activities. Duryodhana had tried to kill the Pandavas in many different ways. So now, through heinous act, then Ashwatthama has killed the 5 sons of Draupadi. So why didn't he become satisfied? Because he knew he was dying. What use would it be to him? Now the kingdom, everything was null and void, because he had to leave everything. So he sobered up. Even Duryodhana, he sobered up when he knew that he had to leave his body, because then he realized, but what use is it to me? I will have to leave it anyway. And then he came to morality. Then he came to his senses. And then he said to Ashwatthama, what you've done is heinous. So that's the practical example of how being face to face with death, being reminded of death and being conscious of death, then we will give up our evil tendencies, or you can say all our attachments. Our attachment and envy will go when we become perfectly clear that death is imminent. So that was the practical example we saw in Duryodhana, how he exhibited this. So that was from theory to practice, and this is all, you may say, also in the category of negative. We meditate on something negative, and then to stop us from doing something wrong. So this is a negative restriction. But it is also recommended that we keep this with us. We don't reject the negative, because it is useful. We may find it that if we can envision our final moments, if we can envision ourselves, having to leave this body, then that might help us to make us a little bit more sincere. If we are weak in our vows, if we are somehow failing to execute devotional service properly, then envisioning one's final moments before one has to leave, that may help us to pick us up and become sober and sincere. So we may take that point with us, how to become sincere, how to become detached from sense gratification, how to thus give up envy. That remembering death can be helpful in this regard, one's own death. So then I wanted to go from the positive, because the negative. And as we know, it's difficult just to go around with a negative restriction, just to think about death all the time. It's not the total process, you may say. So there's a positive, which should be also, which should maybe be more emphasized. And let us see here, if we can just make them. Then I wanted to take out a verse from the 4th canto, which we find in the 30th chapter, verse 36. And this verse, I will just read I in Sanskrit book. Yatra Narayana Saksha Bhagavan Nyasinam Gati Sanstuyate Satkatasu Mukta Sangai Puna Puna. And this means the Supreme Lord Narayan is present among devotees who are engaged in hearing and chanting the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Narayan is the ultimate goal of sannyasis, those in the renounced order of life. And Narayan is worshipped through this Sankirtan movement by those who are liberated from material contamination. Indeed, they recite the holy name again and again. So as we know, Srila Prabhupada, he gave us the positive, the very positive aspect of simply chanting, dancing and feasting. So this is the juice, or this is the nectar. So if we simply do that, and then take a little bit of the negative restriction just to help us when we are weak, or when we are in difficulty, when we are failing, doing something harmful to others. If we keep with us that negative thing, just to straighten us up, and then we take this positive, and this positive about chanting, hearing and chanting, this can be taken very simply, like simply chant and be happy. That's super simple. You know, if you can just take that and do that and be happy, super simple. That's actually possible. And there's also, you find here in Bhagavatam, if you want a bit more, you know, if you're satisfied with the simple, but you want to hear also a bit more, a different aspect of the positive, you find that Bhagavatam will not fail you in that also. It will, there's the same thing about the positive chanting and dancing and feasting. That's also described in different ways. So I just wanted to bring out one way how this positive aspect is explained in the sense of yajna. And as we know in the Bhagavad Gita, this is in the 3rd chapter, where Krishna says, in the beginning the Lord sent forth all generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by performance of this sacrifice." So be happy by the performing of yajna. This is what the Lord said. We become happy by performing yajna. And there's a little bit intricate detail about what's the nature of that yajna, that Sankirtan yajna. So this information you find in Bhagavatam. This you can relish, and you may try to think about it. And I just underline one particular line in the purport, which I thought I'd recite for you. And it reads, "Human life is meant for pleasing Narayan, and this can easily be done by performing Sankirtan yajna. Whenever there is congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord, Gaura Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his incarnation as Lord Chaitanya, immediately appears and is worshipped by Sankirtan yajna." So I thought this is a very beautiful sentence by Srila Prabhupada, because he said Gaura Narayan. And as we know, Gaura, it means golden. So when we perform this particular yajna, this Sankirtan yajna, then it said that yajna Purusha of that yajna is Lord Chaitanya. So Prabhupada says, whenever there is congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord, Gaura Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his incarnation as Lord Chaitanya, immediately appears and is worshipped by Sankirtan yajna. So this is a very beautiful thing, because we go out on the streets and perform Sankirtan yajna. So we can try to take this point from the Bhagavatam, that Lord Chaitanya, he appears when we do that, and he is worshipped by that Sankirtan yajna. So we can try to meditate that Lord Chaitanya is there, and he is accepting this yajna performance. He is happy, he is satisfied by that. So this is another aspect of the positive, and we should meditate on the positive. and become really astounded, actually, how merciful Lord Chaitanya is, how we can easily please Him. We can do something simple like that, and even a child can participate, and we can do that in order to please Him. So chant and be happy. That is the positive, and we take also the negative in order to make sure that we achieve the desired result to help us. So with that, I'd like to end off presentation today. Maybe we only have 3 minutes. Sorry. Yes.
Well, I was still thinking, like you were explaining, that the affection that Diji had for the Ashwini Kumaras, and that they asked him to give up his body, but it is still like so unusual that, like you explained, that there was a lot of affection there, but still, like the disciple asked for such a thing. That is very unusual.
It is very unusual. As you know, Bhagavatam is full of unusual incidents. That's why the Bhagavatam is so attractive also, because it's so uncommon. Like Urukramangi, we speak about the Lord. One name of the Lord is Urukramangi. Is it correct? Urukramangi. That means that Urukram is a great strides, a great steps in its connection with Vamanadev's Leela. So it's said about the Lord that He performs uncommon pastimes, and the devotees of the Lord, or the things in which the Lord is involved in, and this is involving the Lord, is very uncommon. So that's why we read it. That's why it's so attractive. That's why the Lord's pastimes are so attractive, so full of this. So it may be seem strange. Why should Ashwini Kumaras agree to act, agree to ask the spiritual preceptor for his own body? And because the Lord is already involved, Lord has ordained this. The Lord has said to the demigods, you have to go to Dadichi and ask him for this. Because the demigods, they know they're about to die. The Vritasura will kill them. So they're quite desperate, not only for themselves. I thought, because it's also nice to speak in demigods' favor in that sense, because they worry not only for themselves, but their responsibility. They have responsibility to maintain the functions of this universe. They know if they can't do that, then not only will they suffer, but so many other living entities will suffer. So we can also take it for granted that demigods, they're thinking for the welfare of other living beings as well. So they approach Lord Vishnu and they get the solution that you have to go to Dadichi and you have to ask him this charity. There's a Brahmana, he's a very liberal Brahmana, so he will not hesitate to give it. So I see that the Ashwini Kumaras, they do this because it's ordered by the Lord Himself. It's come from Lord Vishnu Himself, and they are aware that he's a great Brahmana. So actually it's a great glorification of Dadichi. Like Dadichi is not the loser. He has become eternally glorified in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam for his selfless sacrifice. So I believe the Ashwini Kumaras, they are aware of all these things. Because if I agree with you, it does seem like a very odd thing to ask for a spiritual master to do that. So thank you for that comment. That was very enlightening. So we'll stop here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srimad Prabhupada ki jai.